Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Women Arsecast on Arseblog.com. That's right, we had to do a podcast after what transpired on Wednesday evening with Arsenal overturning a 2-0 deficit to beat Real Madrid 3-0 on the night, 3-2 on aggregate. Could have been 5 or 6-0, I think, on the night, and maybe had we not had VAR for this game, it might well have been. But we thought we'd knock out a slightly shorter than usual podcast just to get some sunshine into your lives and into your ears and get that kind of celebratory feeling. And with me to do that, as ever, is Jamie Spanger. Jamie, how are you feeling this morning?
Tim, I'm very, very good. I can't wipe the smile off my face. Honestly, very sleep deprived. Got home last night. I think I watched the highlights about 37 times and just couldn't get to sleep, like high on vibes. But Tim, what a night at the Emirates Stadium. I'm absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, absolutely. I did kind of much the same. I got in around midnight. I didn't go to bed till about 1:30. And, energetic 4-year-old waking me up at 6:30, usually not ideal, but I can get by it this morning. And yeah, just one of, I've seen a lot of Arsenal in the Champions League over many years. I think obviously the final in 2007, but I think of that game against Lyon and wouldn't mind another 5-1 there. Final, the games against Wolfsburg and Bayern a couple of seasons ago. I think, 2 seasons ago, Arsenal had, on the face of it, a really trying season, but, won the Conti Cup. But I think most people remember that Champions League run. So to have another semi-final, which I think is about par for Arsenal, but like a semi-final with a chance of going to the final, a swinger's chance, I just think, was that, how did that rank in terms of your experience of Arsenal women games, particularly in the flesh?
Yeah, can I be honest? Like in terms of in the flesh, I obviously was in my apartment in Melbourne for that Wolfsburg semi-final and then had to go to a 7 a.m. uni class. It was a fire. But I remember saying like a long time ago, Tim, after Jonas left, reflecting on my happiest moment as an Arsenal women's fan, like that was up there. We lost the game, but I was so proud. And last night was like, Bayern Munich before Christmas was high on vibes, but last night felt extremely special. I was sitting in that stadium and it was just like full body chills. The crowd were amazing, like such a kudos to the Emirates Stadium crowd because it felt like it was sold out. It was that loud. And I was sitting there and I remember when the third goal went in, we'll talk about it later, but I was frozen to the seat. I couldn't even celebrate. And Sophie from Girls on the Ball was next to me and she was just patting me on the back. She was like, what a day, mate. What a day. So yeah, that ranks probably number one because it was just special. Felt like the whole club, the fans, everyone involved were just so behind each other.
Yeah, definitely. Like I'd put it up there. Like I think we beat Chelsea at home for Jonas's first WSL game in charge, and that felt quite special. I think that was only like 9,000 that night, but you felt that like something was growing, and it was like our first really big WSL result at the Emirates. But yeah, this one felt amazing. And I think to echo what you said about the supporters as well, that kind of the LA rendition like on kickoff was really, really like, it makes me emotional sometimes. I just think, wow, I never thought I'd see this like even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago, sitting in kind of empty stadiums and all of that. I think the fans really responded. I think the club did a great job as well of kind of getting the hype going, the light show before, giving out the flags. The flags looked amazing over in the East Lower in particular and in the North Bank. And yeah, I'm with you. Like, it's 22,000, 23,000, but it felt like a lot more. And I think, Rene gave a bit of a call to arms before the game saying Madrid won't be used to playing in places like this. And I really think it made a difference on the night because, it was a performance of energy from the players, and they need the fans and they're going to do that. But let's kind of rewind to before the game. We had a little bit of a chat about this game, but how confident were you? What were your kind of emotions going into this?
Yeah, can I be honest? I was optimistic. Like, I wasn't saying we're going to go into this game, we're going to clear it, it's going to be a very comfortable win. I just was optimistic that the players were going to show the fight because we saw the signs of it against Liverpool. And in my eyes, I thought if we can bring this down to 2-2, like I'm confident going into penalties. I didn't think it would be as one-sided of a contest as it ended up to be, but I was optimistic that we were going to see the team perform and we were going to see a positive and intense and inspiring performance. I wasn't positive that we were going to, overturn the deficit, but Yeah, I wasn't going in as a pessimist, but I do sometimes catch myself out. I went into the Liverpool FA Cup game a couple of weeks dreaming of Wembley, like I went into the Madrid game dreaming of Lisbon. So I am usually an optimist, and I'm glad it worked in the favour. But no, I was confident.
Yeah, I felt it was a bit of a quote. Like, I didn't see anything last week from Madrid to be that scared of, other
Mhm.
than Linda Caicedo. I mean, they have some very good players. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't come out. I came out of that game thinking, how on earth have you won this 2-0?
Mhm.
I think we were guilty on the second goal. I think we were very unlucky on the first goal. I think, and now we've won, I can be ungracious. I hate it when people say it's the same for both teams when the pitch is bad. It's not. If your
Yeah.
game plan is to kick it long and play on the counter, a bad pitch is not a big impediment to that. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean there is absolutely nothing Arsenal could possibly have done, and you just throw your hands up and say, we can only lose this game. And Rene said afterwards, we were critical of ourselves after that. We didn't want to focus on the pitch. But I think it would have been a travesty if Real Madrid had got through this, both from the football aspect, because I think Arsenal were much the better team over both legs. Not as much last week, but big golfing class here. And while they've got some amazing players who belong in Champions League semi-finals and finals, I'm not sure that club does. So I was very, very pleased to overturn it. But I can't pretend like you that I was, I thought we can do this. I think there's a good chance we do this, but you can't come in 2-0 down saying you're going to do it. So, saying it and doing it, two other things. But the lineup, Jamie, I mean, again, we spoke about this in the post-Liverpool pod, and I said I felt this has to have been a dress rehearsal. And you asked Rene after the game as well about that in terms of Liverpool's similarities to Madrid, and just no surprise to me that it was an unchanged lineup at all.
Yeah, absolutely not. I was at Sober Realty Training Centre, obviously in
The
North
sober
London.
reality.
Full name, full birth certificate name, yesterday, and I was at the open session, and seeing Kim Little in that warm up was magic, because I was very, very happy with the performance against Liverpool. We spoke about it, Tim. It was an aggressively attacking lineup, and it needed to be the case. You're overturning a 2-0 deficit. You've got to rely on your defense to be able to break down the high transition play of Real Madrid. So I thought it can't be any other way. So when I saw Kim Little training yesterday, I thought, wonderful, that'll be great. Let's line up that way. And when it came out, sure enough, very happy with that.
Yeah, I actually looked because I couldn't make it to the MD-1 open training session. That was the first thing I wanted to know. So I looked at your Twitter to make sure that Kim Little was training, because I think she was critical, particularly in a game where you need 2 goals, and what she's contributed in attack recently. Even if she hasn't scored, she's setting a lot of goals up, and I'm just not sure our other midfielders are quite of that profile at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously there was a change for Madrid as well, and I was always interested to see what happened here, because they lost Melanie Leupolz. The one way the pitch worked against them in the first leg was they got a pretty key player injured on it, which I'm not going to gloat about that at all. I think it's very much on Madrid. But Melanie Leupolz out of this game, and what Madrid have been doing in these Champions League games, and I think they did it against Barca as well. They kind of play 4 central midfielders. They really clog that space, and then they just let kind of Linda Caicedo free, playing off Signe Brun. But they didn't have Melanie Leupolz for this game, so I was wondering what they'd do. And they played Athenia Del Castillo, so they kind of moved Caroline Weir back into midfield. But they kind of, they played with a 4-4-2 really, or a 4-4-1-1, but they played with an extra attacker essentially. And so when I don't know, what did you think when you saw their lineup before the game?
Yeah, when I saw the lineup, I was a little bit like, okay, this is risky, because like you said, Leopold, she's a midfielder. She can also drop back. She's quite defensive. However, Athenia's not like that. She can play the wing back role, but to be honest, I know we're not a Real Madrid podcast, and I know I shouldn't be biased, but I don't rate her that much as a footballer. So I saw the lineup and I thought, look, I don't think her defensive attributes are that strong. And I do really think we saw that happen. I think especially in the first 20 minutes, Caitlin Ford was afforded so much space down that left side. And I don't think there was any defensive discipline in shutting that down. And when Kelly switched to that wing, it was much of the same. It's like they kind of moved the defense towards her. But yeah, and then they had to switch Athenia onto the other side in the second half. And I just think Real Madrid really struggled with that because the defensive discipline from her, I think, was way off, and she was a part of the reason. When Olga Carmona is having one of her really big off days, you need like that midfield forward to really drop back. So I think it was played into Arsenal's hands. That result played into Arsenal's hands because I don't think her defensive discipline did them any favours on the night.
Yeah, and I think it was the same on the other flank as well. Like, you've already got Olga Carmona. She's the fullback that pushes up the most, playing in a bit of a 4-4-2 where Linda Caicedo, less of a free role and is actually playing on the wing. And it's no coincidence that Arsenal targeted that side so much. Like Carmona, a left side of Carmona and Caicedo is pretty attacking, particularly when, your actual game plan is to contain. And I think Arsenal had a lot of fun on that side as well. And they kept switching. You could tell because they kept switching Caicedo in the second half. They put her on the other side because Arsenal were coming down the right so much. Then they made some subs and they just put her up front because I think they didn't want to sub her, but she doesn't really contribute defensively. So I think that Leopold's injury really cost Real Madrid. It cost them the opportunity to be a bit more solid. I'm not quite as sure who else they could have played in terms of a central midfielder because they've got other injuries there as well. But I think if Leopold's had been fit, this might have been different. They might have been able to clog things up a bit more. But, I think no surprises really about how the game started. Madrid bunkered in, Arsenal very intense, and it was kind of like watching the Liverpool game again, really, wasn't it?
Yep, 100%. Like we said after the Liverpool game, it was one of those opening 10 minutes. It was probably the best we've seen from Arsenal in a long while. And I was just begging that the intensity was going to be at the same level. And it was. And I think like going back to what the atmosphere they created on kickoff, obviously the scarves in the air, it felt like everyone was behind each other. The intensity from the Arsenal team. And like I asked Renee about this after the game. And like her biggest thing was, like they have similarities, but it comes down to how much intensity we show in the game. It doesn't come down to the opposition because we've seen Arsenal. Like I do think that leg in Madrid, it wasn't the most positive performance, but I do think there was some light to take from the Arsenal showing. The issue I had was the intensity wasn't there. And I think that was the same for the Liverpool FA Cup game. So to see Arsenal come in with such high intensity, it was exactly how the game needed to start. And Real Madrid, like that Leopold's injury has so much effect on how much they can sit back in this opening 10 minutes because they don't have this defensive caliber to be able to do that. So I think Arsenal did a really good job at playing at a high level in order to like just combat their personnel because they didn't have the players that they needed. So I was very pleased with this. Like I think down the left side, Katie McCabe gets into the game almost immediately, which was very, very good. Her and Caitlin Ford were working really well together. I thought that Kim Little was on the game. I'd love to see Mariona's like mile tracker after that game because she was just running from side to side of that midfield. So when your players open the 10 minutes like that, it gives you a lot of hope. But I did think it dragged on because it's just to no effect in the first 45.
Yeah. And I think this is probably a conversation for another day and not for a more celebratory podcast, but I think there'll be a nagging voice in Renee Slager's head, as well as a lot of fans of, we know we can pull these performances out the bag. We've seen it. We know that Arsenal can show up. And I think the longer term question is, can we show up every single week, every single time? Even if you don't play to this intensity, it does just feel like we have 2 or 3 off days a season. And if you want to win the big trophies, you can't have that. So, but that's a conversation for another day. We get, knocking on the door, but not creating really clear-cut chances. We get some clever set-piece routines. Again, Arsenal got to the back post a couple of times. Mariona has a header that she should probably bury. She made up for that in the second half from a corner. But really the thing that stood out was Chloe Kelly's crossing, and our good friend Aidan Gibson, who does our match reports, I saw him post during the game, someone's got a score from one of these Chloe Kelly crosses. And that seemed to be a real theme of the first half as well. I thought she was phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. And we spoke about this after Liverpool, Tim. Like her intelligence to know like when it's on and when it's not on is so peak. Like She knows when to hit the ball first time. She knows when to kind of invert into the midfield, drop back. She's an intelligent footballer, and I don't think we give her enough credit for it because she's a little bit like she likes to rile the crowd up. She's a bit of like an X Factor player. So we kind of undercut her intelligence. I think her football intelligence is so key to this game because she knew when the ball was on, and it just felt like no one else was really on her wavelength in that opening 45. And that comes to like her being a January loan player. I do think the players, they needed a little bit to click because God, she was creating her balls in. It's not like she's kind of, I think we've seen with Arsenal over the last couple of seasons, and especially last season from the channels, it's kind of banging the same old drum, like putting in the same ball when it's not on. But it felt like Chloe Kelly was picking her moments, and that's like goes back to her being an intelligent footballer. She's picking her moments. She knows when the right ball's on, and her set piece delivery from the corners as well, like going back to that Mariona one, back post, I think it was Alessia Russo makes a really good run to free up the back post, and then Mariona should be putting that in the back of the net. But I know we go on about Chloe Kelly. She's such a character in football, but I think it undercuts her intelligence because she's so game savvy and she knows when the ball's on. She knows when it's not. So, yeah, the whole 90, well, not the 90. She didn't play the 90, but, yeah, I thought she was incredible and I was so, so glad. Don't fall in love with a lone player, but it's hard to break the Cardinals rule.
I think it is really hard. And it's interesting you said that about her game intelligence. So, and Renee said some of this herself in press conferences. I think they're really impressed with the energy she's brought to the club, and Renee's very big both on accountability and on players contributing to tactics and game plans. And Renee said something very interesting afterwards in the press conference where she spoke about what they did after the first leg was she sent the players away to have a players meeting without the coaches and said, you have a discussion about what you think went wrong and what we can do better in the second leg. And me and the coaches are going to go and meet and do the same thing. And then we'll all come together and we'll see what we've talked about. So like Renee's very, very big on players having a big part of the game plan. And I heard some very good things about what Chloe Kelly's contributing in terms of her tactical input, the energy and impetus she brings in training. And again, Renee's saying it herself, but I think Arsenal very, very taken with her, very impressed with her input, both in games, but around, the quote unquote environment. And I think Arsenal really are looking to create this big, like, accountability culture. And I think Chloe Kelly not just fitted into that, but I think there's a view that she's helping to set it a little bit as well. So, it's been a very good loan spell so far, put it that way. But Madrid, they don't do a lot in the first half, but they do get a chance at the end of the half. Philippa Angeldal has a shot. And another thing Renee said in the post-match press conference, if you're a goalkeeper for Arsenal, you might have nothing to do, but when you've got something to do, you got to be able to do it. You got to stay switched on. And that's usually what separates top goalkeepers. They make the big move. They go to the big club. Some goalkeepers can handle that and have that skill, and some just don't. Daphne van Domselaar has that skill in spades.
Yeah. Honestly, Tim, my heart sunk. Like, it sunk. When that ball dribbles back, like, my heart sunk. I was sat there with my head in my hands and, like, just kind of, I think it's just a little bit of the last few seasons as well. We've seen, like, when Arsenal are really, really, like, creating, or they don't even, not even creating, but they're driving the momentum forward, and a defense is kind of sitting in a bit of a mid to low block. It's just, we know as Arsenal fans that it just takes one forward and then they're going to score. It's going to be 1-0. Like, we've seen so much of that over the last couple of years that it just gave me flashbacks to that. But to pull off a save like that, because when a goalkeeper's out of action, and it's also important to note, like the Liverpool game, she played 90 minutes and hardly touched the ball. So she's been concussed. She hasn't played like real football, making real saves for a couple of weeks now. And that has effects on goalkeepers. Like what Renee said, like, they might not have a lot of action to do in this game. So to be able to make it was a double save in the end, excuse me, but it was offside, obviously, the second one. But to have that concentration, she's world class, and she's so young, Tim. Like, she's so young. Goalkeepers do not hit their peaks till their late 20s, like early 30s. This is a gem. Like, for Arsenal to have a player like this with such a high level, it's so exciting, and I hope fans are so excited. I know that they are, but this is a young player, and I'm so glad she went to Aston Villa. Daphne said that. Renee said that. Tim, you've echoed that. She had that year. She's kind of made it into the Arsenal squad now, and like the ceiling of Daphne van Domselaar, she saved my heart rate because it went through the bloody roof. But yes, very, very good. What a young player. What a high ceiling.
Yeah, I felt that as well when that cross kind of dribbled backwards. I was like, surely Madrid aren't going to get another bounce like this in this tie. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm a renowned Manu Zinsberger apologist. I think Manu Zinsberger improved loads. I really, really like her. Really like her attitude. And but Daphne Van Domselaar's better. It's as simple as that. And if Daphne had been in goal for the first leg, I don't think it would have been 2-0 either.
Mhm.
Because that's probably part of the test that Manu failed in the second leg, where she had nothing to do for a whole half, and then she lets Athenia's shot go in, and it's just Arsenal have upgraded there. It's that simple. And yeah, you can't say fairer than that. But half time, 0-0. We did a vlog on the game, so I kind of gave my thoughts as the game progressed. But I said, and it's there on record on the vlog at half time, I said, if Arsenal keep playing like this, I think they'll do it. I think they were banging the door down. How did you feel at half time?
Yeah, cautiously optimistic. I won't lie. I felt less optimistic, just as you do as a football fan. 0-0, like it was the nerves were flowing. I can't lie. I wasn't chatting a lot to the people around me. However, like I'm with you. I think there's a difference between Arsenal playing a brand of football where they're holding possession, they're driving the momentum, but they're not creating the chances. They're not looking likely to create the chances. But I did think, especially Chloe Kelly, she was the main catalyst of that. It looked like it was just kind of waiting for the door to break down. So there was the momentum there. However, I was nervous. I didn't know, like, you never know if luck just doesn't swing in your way. If it's one of those days, like, I was losing my shine and my optimism a little bit. But no, I'm with you, Tim. I think I was a bit like, if this continues, they have to break at some point. But will they break? That's another story.
Yeah, and in these games when you need 2 goals, like I always keep in my mind, if it comes in the 80th minute, it's still on.
Yeah.
It's still absolutely on, because once you get that first and the dam breaks, you do find that the second, the energy, the pressure ratchets up. Doesn't mean you always do it, but a goal changes things. So even if, it's 60 minutes, 70 minutes, I was like, when that goal comes, and I do think it will come, then it's really on. Then it's really on. And what were we, 45 seconds into the second half? On the vlog, I do like a little bit, just as the second half kicks off, really. And I'd just finished it, and Russo's on the back post, Chloe Kelly cross. I wouldn't mind betting that a part of Renee's team talk was, hey guys, Chloe Kelly's putting loads of really good crosses in the box. Anyone fancy attacking one of them? And just the perfect start to the half.
Oh, perfect start to the half. And this goes back to what I was saying about Chloe Kelly's intelligence. Like, to be able to pick that cross, it's a brilliant cross. It's a brilliant finish. It's an instinctive 9 finish. And I thought Alessia Russo, like, we have a lot to speak about because she obviously scores the winner, but this is one of the best halves of football I've seen her play in an Arsenal shirt. I was so up in arms about it. But yeah, it starts from Chloe Kelly. And I think the second goal, we'll talk about that as well. But that also is just all Chloe Kelly. It's a brilliant set play from the back from Daphne, but this goal, instinctive 9 finish. And we actually spoke to Frida Monum. Tom Ma, one of our writers at the Halfway Line, spoke to Frida, and she said, we have faith because there's a saying in Norway, and there's definitely a saying in Australia, I'm not sure about England, but like 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline. And it is.
Yeah.
Like, it gets you back in, right? The other teams start to feel the pressure of the game. It's at the Emirates. The crowd is loud. Once you get that one goal, and it goes back to what you said, Tim, if you can do that in the 80th minute, it's still on. The team starts to crack. And when it gets to 2-0, the damn wall breaks. So yeah, very great goal, instinctive finish, great. And if I was an England fan, definitely not an England fan, but I'd be very excited about that matchup. And I'm sure Serena Wiegman is kind of clapping her hands in excitement of how she can justifiably start those two, because yeah, great set play from the partnership there.
Yeah, and getting that goal a minute into the half, from that point in my head, we'd won.
Yeah.
I was just like, there's no way we don't win this now. And I was thinking before the game, probably take extra time. I think no one did put me on the spot for a prediction, but I think if I'd predicted, I might have said, maybe 2-0, 3-1 full time, and then Arsenal do it extra time. But once that goes in a minute into the half, I was like, Madrid have got no chance now. And sure enough, Arsenal ride the crest of that wave, and very similar goal. Chloe Kelly cross again, but this time Mariona playing in the pivot again. Again, this is why I think Renee's message would have been, let's get on the end of some of these, because it's a great run. No one picks her up. we had a question, didn't we, on the last pod about our double pivot never scoring, and Mariona playing in it. And I mean, Misa Rodriguez should stop that, but I don't care about that. And it's just such a wonderful feeling, isn't it, when you get two big goals that run together like that, like the adrenaline, the energy you get in the stadium at that point.
I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I think it was 5 touch from goalkeeper to back of the net. Daphne's played it to Leah. Like, it must be said, Chloe Kelly's ball's fantastic, but Leah to put that ball through down to the right channel, like, it's what she does best. And I thought Leah Williamson last night was phenomenal. And it was when she kind of made that blunder, I was like, no, because you've played so well. So she put the balls into the channel. Again, intelligence. Chloe Kelly hits it first time. And I've seen so many people like speak about this, a lot of men's fan as well, saying like, I just wish our wingers would put it in first time, because she sees the runs on. She knows that there's going to be a player there. She can see Mariona tracking into the penalty spot, and she hits it first time. And what a ball. Like, what a ball in. First time finish, header. I think, Misa Rodriguez needs to do more there. The goalkeeper blundered that, because as Mariona's hit it off her head, I didn't think it was going to the back of the net. It kind of goes straight to the keeper, but the run, the finish, the ball from the centre half, the winger, it was just a perfect example of what Renee Slegers is trying to bring to this game. Because if you can struggle in defensive transition, you can at least attack in high transition, because I thought this was just as much as a beautiful passage of football. And wow, the heart rate was pumping at this stage.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mariona would have enjoyed that goal more than most, given her roots as well. And yeah, I think you're right. I think there's kind of a lot that goes into it. And I think what's interesting as well is against Everton and Liverpool, we saw this emphasis on low crosses, because those are big teams with big defenders, but Madrid are not that. And we didn't see an emphasis on low crosses. We saw an emphasis on get it in there, which was clearly a massive part of the game plan, which is interesting, because in the first leg, I didn't think we looked particularly threatening from any of their crosses, our crosses actually, or our corners. I kind of thought they dealt with that really quite easily in the first leg. So it's interesting that Arsenal identified it as a potential weakness, or at least, felt that they can make Madrid uncomfortable that way. And they clearly did. And I think Rene kind of said afterward, well, my first question was like, the number of crosses down the right, that must have been part of the plan. And she kind of said, we didn't necessarily plan for as many of them to go down the right, but she kind of said, I mean, in a way, a bit critical of Madrid. She was like, but Madrid gave us that space, so we just kept using it. I don't think they were anticipating on it being there necessarily, because they don't usually play, they kind of play Caicedo almost as more of a 10 usually, whereas she was on the wing. And I think Arsenal were just like, okay, if you're going to keep giving us this space, we're going to keep going for it. And should say as well, fabulous dribble in the build-up from Caitlin Ford, who I thought was amazing on the night as well. But then it's 3-2. Soon after, Katie McCabe cross into the box, big Steph Catley, our monster in the air, getting the knockdown, Alessia Russo lashing it in. And this, to me, just felt like a real coming-of-age performance for Alessia Russo. I think she's got 6 goals in the Champions League this season. This game feels to me like not announcing her arrival, because I've always had faith that this player can be that Bunny Shaw, Sam Kerr level goal scorer, and she's still got to do that. She hasn't done it yet, but this felt like a night where Russo gone up a level, I think.
Yep. I think that everything we can take from this goal is how instinctive the finish was. Like, instinctive finish. She's literally thrown herself at it, some kind of acrobatic way to put that ball in the back of the net. But this is the player that we kind of saw glimpses of at the end of last season. We kind of saw it in the off season as well. Why do I sound like an American? That's crazy. And we struggled at the start of the season. Like, she went 8 games without scoring a goal, and then the damn wall broke. And we've seen her, I think the best example of her being an instinctive striker before this was the North London derby, that opening goal in like the first 2 minutes. It's an instinctive hit. She's just trusted herself. And we know that there is a player there that can do that. It's just about her playing on the confidence. And I think I've never really said Alessia Russo is a confidence player, because I think everyone to an extent is a confidence player. I don't think she's a striker that relies on that as much as everyone else does, because she's very good dropping back in the midfield. She's versatile. She can play as a footballer as well. But this was a complete performance. I just thought, when you see Alessia Russo, she's such a humble footballer, right? Like, she doesn't really ever look like she's brimming with energy and she's ready to take on the world. As much as she's always putting 110% in, she's not that player that's kind of like pumping up the crowd. It felt like this was exactly who needs to be unlocked, because it was a complete performance. I thought dropping back and getting the ball as well, she did well, but she didn't do it as much. And that's what we've kind of been calling out for. Like, when you have someone like Chloe Kelly, I also thought Caitlin Ford was doing it, creating so many chances in the box. We don't need Russo to be dropping back and aiding the midfield. And I think we've seen so historically she's doing that even when it's not like necessary. This game, it felt like, I'm going to play as a number 9. I'm going to do my role as a number 9. And it was brilliant. And I think obviously she gets 2 goals disallowed as well, but she wanted to score. She wanted the hat trick to the dying minute. So this was Alessia Russo at her best. And I think she's leading the goal scoring now in the Champions League. I'm not certain about that though.
Could well be.
Yeah, so that's very exciting. I also saw a very funny stat that she scored like a ridiculous amounts of goals in the Champions League, and Manchester United Football Club have scored 0. So just like to shout out the city of Manchester. Thank you for Chloe and thank you for Alessia.
Yeah, that's and I think with the game plan clearly to get a lot of crosses in, obviously, she's going to be integral to that. But yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Renee said something similar afterwards. She said like she's very stable and consistent, and she's not influenced by whether she scores or not, because she's such a team player. But yeah, Renee kind of almost made the same point as you, that she's kind of not a confidence player. She's just like on the level all the time, and that really helps her to be very, very consistent. And I mean, she could have had a hat trick, couple of goals disallowed for offside. The first one disallowed seemed to take absolutely forever. In fact, I kind of think the game restarted, or maybe I missed something. I was doing my to camera we're 4-2 up bit, and then all of a sudden it was ruled out. But I mean, Madrid were absolutely rocking. And one of the things I asked Renee afterwards was, Arsenal were in a weird position at this point because they've so quickly gone from needing 2 goals to being ahead. And another thing I kind of put on the vlog was, I wonder at what point does the tempo, the momentum of this game switch? At what point do we retreat a bit and Madrid come on a bit? I mean, that never happened. And I asked Renee about it afterwards. I was like, was that your plan before? And again, she said, not really. She said, we spoke to the players on the sideline and they just felt we were so dominant. We were so on top. Why would we stop doing that? And we felt that there was a 4th goal there. And I think, Jamie, that's one of the things I like the most about this performance, that there was no let up at 3-2. We kept at them.
Yeah, can I be honest? As a fan of the football club, there was a moment in the dying minutes where Caitlin Ford has gone to score a 4th, and I was like, please just dribble it to the corner flag. Just dribble it to the corner flag. I can't take it anymore. But I think like Arsenal were in a very, very gracious position where Real Madrid, right, they've gone into this game and they've said, we need to defend a 2-0 lead. It was very obvious that they weren't ready to add more goals to that tally. As soon as they were very ready to go on transition if it kind of worked out for them, but they weren't entering this fixture with a game plan to score more goals. So Real Madrid are in a position where it comes back to 3-2 and they're saying, shit, this is not what we planned for. How do we adapt so quickly to now attack? And I think when your players, they weren't switched on, and I think Alberto Torre will be kicking himself because it felt like, did they not prepare for Arsenal at all? Because it's so hard to say, okay, now we need to attack. And when you don't have the personnel for that, it's not easy. So I think Arsenal read that and they saw blood in the water there and they said, hey, there's a vulnerability where we don't actually need to sit back because Real Madrid are not equipped to do this. So it was smart. I think it was intelligent. And when the players feel it, right? They're the people on the pitch. I think we can analyze as much as we want of this game and say, yeah, Real Madrid played like this, they played like that. But the players know what the momentum's going to be like because they're the ones that are in the game. And if they're going to say we can keep going for more, they can keep going for more. And you know what? It could have been 6-7-0. Alessia Russo gets 2 goals disallowed. There's a few shots that go off in the last couple of minutes. So yeah, I think it was just about reading the game state, and this goes back to intelligence. It's nice to see these players unlock the intelligence because they're world-class footballers. They'll have it. So yeah, it was about managing the game state, and I think just preying on Real Madrid's vulnerabilities because they didn't look like a team that were ready to reset and kind of make up the deficit again.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think that's a big part of Renee's management style, kind of listening to the players. Like she said, we spoke to them on the sideline and they said, we want to keep going. So I let them keep going. And that's, I personally think that's very, very good management. But as it turned out, I mean, I wasn't hugely nervous. I kept having to remind myself that there was only one goal in it. I think like the odd nature of the offside goals being disallowed and the fact we were so dominant that even when the 6 minutes went up, I was a bit nervous, but I was like, they just haven't been in our half. But they do get their first shot of the half in injury time from Linda Caicedo, the only onside sight of goal she has all night, and Van Domselaar's there again.
Yeah, wow. Another moment where my heart sank, but it was like a 10-second period. My brain went through every possible scenario because I honestly thought, it's fine. She puts this in the back of the net. I don't think we're losing. It's okay. Like, it's going to be okay. That was my thought straight away as soon as I see her streaming on the one-on-one. Luckily, didn't have to have that situation. Daphne Van Domselaar again. I don't think the shot was maybe as good as it could have been. Mm-hmm. I think her earlier shot for the Angeldal save was incredible because it was a brilliant strike, but Linda Caicedo probably should have done better here. But again, I keep her switched on, and it was just like Leah Williamson's celebration when that gets cleared away. It just kind of summed up the evening in M5 because, gosh, the vibes were high.
and so, you know, Arsenal are through, and really, really nice moment where, you know, the Angel plays. I know Renee mentioned that in her TV interview as well. What a special moment that was for the staff, and just real kind of chills watching all of that unfold. You're feeling your emotion at full time.
Yeah, honestly, like it's crazy. It's honestly crazy. I think for the first two goals, I was absolute limbs, like so much excitement. That third goal went in and I was genuinely frozen to my seat. I was like, there's no possible way where we're at 3-2 up on aggregate right now. And I actually couldn't react to the game. And when the final whistle went, like I was similar. I was kind of just sitting there in disbelief because although it was obvious, and I think that Arsenal was so dominant the entire 90 minutes, it is like when you're a fan, it's so crazy to see things like that happen. And I think I turned away from being a journalist for those 5 minutes and I just sat in complete disbelief because what a performance. And it's not even, it's so hard because you're winning a quarterfinal, 3-2 on aggregate. And maybe like it would have been nicer if we went to Madrid last week and kind of like, you know, at least held the nil or draw, or maybe got a couple goals in and you want to win it comfortably. But there's no better way as a fan after that final whistle to win a quarterfinal than to come back from a deficit and to watch your team kind of play for the badge. And it just like, I felt so like, it was just this gratefulness, right? Like to be able to support this club, to write for this club, to talk about this club with you, Tim. It felt like everything kind of fell into equilibrium. And it was just a beautiful moment. But I wasn't like screaming and shouting. I can't lie. I was actually sat down in my seat, like frozen to the seat. But yeah, so many emotions.
Yeah, and I think the fact that the goals weren't particularly late, like kind of gave me a chance. I just thought we were going to score more, to be honest. And so, yeah, I took a real moment to kind of soak it in and watch the celebrations and all of that and not necessarily rush down to the press room and just a great night for the club. I think I'm with you. Like, really, I think Arsenal should win this like 4-1 on aggregate. I think the first leg should probably be 1-1 or something like that. And we should beat them 3-0 here, and it should be a bit like the other semi-final with Lyon and Bayern, where Lyon make quite short work of Bayern, which, you know, is obviously ominous for the semi-final. But how about, you know, we've spoken about a few player performances. How about a player performance for you that's, because I think all 11 players could justify a shout, but maybe a player performance we haven't discussed that you that caught your eye?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the captain. I think Kim Little was, again, at her best. She was so good in Madrid last week. I thought she was our best performer. She was amazing against Liverpool, and she showed her levels again. It was a complete leadership performance. But in terms of a midfielder, I thought she had Caroline Veer in her pocket. I think she was really, really dictating the tempo of the play. And there was so many moments where she kind of like tracked back and made a challenge and hit it out to Foxy. And you just saw her like stand up and the crowd clapped. And I was like, this is a player that deserves this moment. Like if anyone deserves this moment, it's Kim Little. But it was an authoritative performance. She was so cool and calm in that midfield. And I think it allowed Mariona to do what she did in the second half. Thought Mariona was more defensive a little bit in the first half. And then she really, really pushed on because she knew, hey, Kim Little's there. And that's no easy feat, right? Like the players that Kim Little is playing against in that midfield, like you've got a player as good as Caroline Veer who can kind of shock you. And we know how well she played against Barcelona on the weekend. So I want to give all credit where credit's due to the captain because I thought, yeah, it was a complete performance from her.
And I'm going to shout the vice captain. I thought Leah Williamson was excellent. That kind of it looked like a mistake at the end with Signa Brunn, but actually I watched the replay and it's not an. It really looks like an underhit back pass, but actually Brunn gets her toe on it. But the way Williamson come that's like as close as she came all night to putting any sort of foot wrong, and she came back and won the tackle and won the ball. Took a few knocks and bruises, I think, but I think this is a player we take for granted a little bit, to be honest. I don't think it's unfair that the player's questioned. I think certainly she had her part in she had her part in the first goal, in the first leg, but I do honestly just think that's the pitch. The second goal she has her part in as well. She's not the only one. But I just think whenever she's questioned, I don't think it bothers her. I think she just comes in, puts in a big performance. And I think because she's been with us so long, I think when a player's with you for a long time, their quality can just wash over you and you start to take it for granted a little bit. And, that goes for on the ball as well. But I thought she defended brilliantly in this game. And, she was in the press conference, the day before the game. And I think Art de Roche asked that question about, not playing like a fan. And, having more control over the situation. And I think she's going to be 28 next month, which makes me feel incredibly old. But I think you can see that there's a real player there. And I don't think we should take her for granted. But I thought she was excellent on the night. What about Lyon semi-final then? It feels a bit early to consider that being reunited with Joe Montemuro again, but how do you see the Lyon semi-final?
Yeah. I feel like the result against Bayern Munich doesn't put me in the best faith. To be honest, I haven't watched the second leg performance. I was already at the Emirates when that was being played. I am planning to go watch it today because I think Clara Buell got Bayern Munich back in it. It was 2-1 and then they flattened them. So I think that, you need to you can't take for granted Bayern Munich right now because I don't think they've been performing very well. They're obviously
missing a lot of injuries as well.
Yeah, they're missing some key personnel as well. And I think when you're allowing a team like Lyon, who are so quick as well, like their pace can't be undermined. And that's something that really worries me. When you're allowing them that breakaway speed, like it's just going to happen. Good teams are going to punish you. I don't think we can analyze this Bayern Munich leg and say it's all over because I think you need to look at Bayern Munich and you need to look at their game state. However, Lyon's pace is a big worry for me. I don't want to dampen this pod, but they're a very quick team. However, reuniting with Joe Montemuro will be interesting. It'll be fun. I think I'd still rather Lyon than Barcelona purely because Barcelona are a different breed in the Champions League. Like we can analyze them both in their own respective leagues and their performances right now. And Barcelona are kind of wavering a little bit, but in the Champions League, they're different gravy. So I don't want to go near it. But yeah, it is what it is. We're in the semi-finals. We're always going to be playing a good football club. That's how football is. That's how Champions League football is. You need to beat the best to be the best. So I'm very, very excited about this.
Yeah, same here. I think we're slight underdogs, which I think is fine. I think we can play into that a little bit. And I just want us to give it a good game, a really, really good go. If we can go to a final, amazing. But let's compete. Let's make it a really close game. I think we will. I think we can. But there's no doubt we don't quite go into it as favourites. I don't think Lyon are quite where they were maybe 5 years ago, but they're not far away from where they were. They're still incredibly good. They're still going to go into this as favourites, and like you say, they've got pace to burn. So I'm really, really looking forward to those games. Actually, going through in this game means I'm going to miss a game for the first time since lockdown, since COVID, actually, because the Leicester game is now being rearranged for Tuesday, the 15th of April, I think, and I'm going to be in Madrid for the men's game. So, but we got 2 extra games into the bargain, so all good, and yeah, just a fantastic night for the club, I think, and for everyone that came, and really hope it's a big attendance for the semi-final, which will be either on the 19th or 20th of April over the weekend as well. So bring it on, hopefully a bit of sunshine, but definitely sunshine, both literally and figuratively this morning. Jamie, thanks as ever for kind of reliving that with us.
Thanks, Tim. And thank you to everyone that was at the Emirates. Thanks to everyone that was watching the game. Like, you guys are the reason that team were performing at their best. I'm very excited to go to the pub later today and watch Chelsea and City and not worry about that result because we're in the semi-finals. So big up. On to the next one.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think definitely we had a 12th woman in the stadium last night. So big up to the Emirates crowd as well. And we'll come back with another episode. We've got a game against Crystal Palace away on Sunday. We'll have another episode for you on Monday, looking back at that game and then go into a bit of an international break. But yeah, until then, may your day continue to be full of sunshine. And for those of you that have got a hangover, hope that you get over that. Bit of hair of the dog, maybe do something better like drink some water. I don't know. But anyway, we'll speak to you on Monday and up the Arsenal.